Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us for our weekly object talks. My name is Eliana and I am a member of the learning team at the Jewish Museum. Today you are joining us for an object talk on an illuminated Haggadah from 1756. Now this object is one of 40,000 objects in the Jewish Museum's collection. A collection which shows the diversity of Jewish live culture and history. And our programs exist to explore the connections between faiths and cultures. Now tonight marks the start of the festival of Passover. Now Passover is a spring festival in which Jewish people remember the story of the Exodus in the Torah, where the Jewish people were led from slavery to freedom by God through his messenger Moses. Now, to think about Passover, we have chosen an object that relates to this festival. I am going to copy the link to have a closer look at this object that we've chosen in the comments. Now, if you would like to have a closer look, please do click on this link. I have just posted it on the comments below the video. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the object I'm focusing on today is a Haggadah from 1756, and it was written by the scribe Abraham Sofer, who lived in Germany. Now, a Haggadah is a book that Jewish people use to retell the story of Passover during a Seder, which is the special traditional meal that Jewish people have on the first 2 nights of Passover, which is an 8-day festival. And during the Seder, they retell the story. Now, the translation of the word Haggadah means retelling, because we retell the story in the Haggadah. And the word Seder means order, because there is a particular order in which we retell the story of Passover. And you can find this particular object, the Haggadah from 1756, in our Judaism gallery in the museum. Now, let's move on to looking at the object in closer detail. So if you click on the link in the comments, you can see perhaps that Abraham Sofer was a very talented scribe. He not only illuminated the Haggadah, but he also illustrated it as well. There are 27 pages of parchment, all beautifully illustrated and illuminated in the most beautiful watercolors. And we can also see that he used pastel tones. Now, in this Haggadah, it tells us exactly how to prepare for Passover and also how to prepare for the Seder as well. On the bottom right-hand page of this picture that you can find in the comments, so do click on the link, we can see a lovely illustration of a man with a child, and they're holding a candle. Now, this illustration actually refers to the tradition of looking for chametz, leavened bread, in one's house the night before Passover, because we must rid the house of all leavened bread, since we're forbidden to eat it during the 8-day festival. And this is because during the story of the Exodus, the Jewish people had to leave Egypt, where they were slaves, in such a hurry that they didn't have time for their bread to rise. And therefore, to remember this, we only eat matzah, which is unleavened bread. So we must rid the house of all chametz, leavened bread, for the duration of the 8-day festival. Now, this tradition can be very fun, so children can get involved. If we look on the left-hand page, and remember you can click the link to have a look, there are all illustrations of the 12 parts of the Seder. You will see 2 columns on either side of the page, and down those columns are the names of the 12 parts of the order of the Seder. And next to those names, you will see beautiful watercolored illustrations of what happens during each part. And these have been the same for thousands of years, this order of the Seder. Now, this Haggadah is in 3 languages: German, Hebrew, and Yiddish. And we can see that next to every single illustration, especially on the page with the 12 parts of the order of the Seder, there are Yiddish rhymes. Now, this format follows the format of the well-known Venice Haggadah. Now, the Venice Haggadah broke with traditional Haggadahs before it because of a different format that it took. And this Venice Haggadah was written in the 17th century. Now, since Hebrew is read from right to left, we read the right column first and then the left column. Now, we know that this Haggadah is not the only Haggadah that Abraham Sofer made and sold. And we know this because there is an inscription in the Haggadah. Unfortunately, you can't see it on the link, but it is in there. Remember, there are 27 pages of parchment. And it tells us that Abraham Sofer made and sold other Haggadahs. It also tells us that this Haggadah was sold in a bookshop. But there is no known owner for this particular Haggadah, unfortunately. Now, for me, this object signifies something very special. It demonstrates the longevity and continuation of Jewish custom, traditions, and language as well. And the fact that Jewish people have been preparing for Passover and the Seders and taking part in them the same way for hundreds of years, and it makes me feel proud to be a part of that tradition. Now, tonight, many of us may not be celebrating in the way that we initially envisaged a few months ago. However, many of us will indeed continue the traditions of Passover and the Seder, perhaps with less people at our Seders. Every year, we ask ourselves why tonight is different from all other nights. And tonight, we will certainly be asking that question to ourselves. Now, I have a question for you all. We would love to hear if you are celebrating, how you're celebrating Passover tonight. Please do feel free to leave a comment in the comments box below the video. We look forward to hearing from you. Now, that just leaves me to say thank you so much for joining us for this object talk. Please do join us next week. It will be Tuesday, the 14th of April, for another object talk on an object relating to Passover as well, since it still will be Passover. I'd like to wish you all a very happy Passover. Keep well. Goodbye for now.